Hey guys, today's video is my quarterly TBR. I want to open this by saying that I decided to do quarterly TBRs this year instead of month-to-month TBRs. The reason for this is that it gives me a little bit more flexibility as far as my reading pace. I am definitely somewhat of a mood reader. Somewhat. I can stick to somewhat of a structure, and it actually tends to keep me on track if I have like a TBR that I'm trying to stick to. However, say I read a book on my TBR and I don't enjoy it as much as something else I could have read, then it tends to put me in a bit of a slump. My reading pace slows down quite a bit, and then I end up, not meeting my goal because it's reading slower. Also with working and life and everything else, my mental health the way it is, and having multiple hobbies and things, like I kind of fluctuate as far as how much I read any given month. So this is a rough outline of what I'm going to try to read in the first quarter. So this is January, February, and March of 2021. I've already started 2 of the books on my list for January. One I am listening to in audiobook form, and mostly when I'm driving. And then the other one I am reading like in physical copy, even though I own them both in physical copy. But one of them is just part of my permanent collection, so it doesn't really matter if I read the physical or not. Anyway, let's just jump into it. So it's basically, give or take, 8 books a month right now is my goal. And I am leaving myself some flexibility in that by not listing titles for all of these 8 slots. So some of the months you'll notice I have like 6 that I have on the list, and then 2 empty slots, and that's basically for me to either pick a mood read or fill it with comic books, because this is just books, not comic books. So I'm trying to supplement that a little bit, but I don't want to read like 4 comics a month and then 4 books a month, really. I'm trying to push myself to read more books. So, plus reading a bunch of comics at the end of the year to meet my overall goal. Anyways, that's how I structured it. Hey, editing Aaron here. Just wanted to tell you guys that it is February 10th as of right now, and I have not reached any of my goals. 2021 has been really weird. I'll probably talk about this a little bit later in the video. It was weird when it started, and now it's even weirder. So I've read like 3 books, and so just take that with a grain of salt. Yes, I have all these books I wanted to read. I'm still going to post this video, but like, I'm probably not going to reach this goal within this time frame at least. So just take it with a grain of salt. I did want to update you, and I did want to still upload this video because I worked hard on it. So it is what it is. Try to enjoy the video. Maybe you'll get some ideas for books to read. Alright, see y'all later. I'll probably have to cut in a couple times today. Anyway, so going into January, I want to read Junji Ito's Cat Diary. I'm dying to read this. I still have a second copy that I need to either give away or something, but this, I love Junji Ito. Can't wait to read this. It'll be really quick. I can probably do this in like 20 minutes, if that. So, Junji Ito's Cat Diary. And then to get into the 2 that I've already started, the one that I'm listening to on audiobook right now is The Tombs of Adawan by Ursula Le Guin, and this is the 2nd book in the Earthsea series. And it's very short. It is 187 pages. It is actually, does it have chapters? It has 12 chapters and a prologue, and I have gotten through the prologue and the first chapter already. So this is going to go by really quick for me, and then we'll see. I have only ever fully gotten through the first book in the Earthsea series, and I have been doing like a reread where Anyways, I've been doing a reread of the Earthsea series because it was one of my favorite middle grade books when I was a kid. It was like the first series fantasy that I read. So, yeah, so far I'm really enjoying it. And the second book is really dark so far. It's like fucked up. So there's that. And then the other book I'm reading right now, and I'm reading this in the physical copy, is Gideon the Ninth. So far I'm really liking this. I'm barely into it. Yeah, I only read the first chapter so far. So I'm only 25 pages into this. But yeah, enjoying this, and I'm gonna keep reading it. I've been on a huge Animal Crossing kick again. So the last week and a half has been really fucking weird for me. But yeah, so I haven't been reading a whole lot, and so I've barely gotten through any of this. But I'm enjoying it so far. The characters are really interesting, and honestly, I know I'll probably understand more of it, but let me just show you, okay? What I opened it and it freaked me out. Like, I was like, oh, I'm in over my head. Because you open it and it immediately gives you these like listings. These listings of all of the houses and like what they do and what their like, you know, motto is, and all the people, like it's all like characters, all people who have like notable people in each house. And I was like, holy shit, am I supposed to remember all these people? Because no, not gonna happen. So it's been interesting so far, and it definitely jumps right into the action, so that's cool. And then the next one I have on my list is The Lost Dogs. And this is a nonfiction story about the dogs that were rescued from Michael Vick. If you don't know anything about that, he... where have you been living, first of all? But, like, on what planet? But, that aside, it goes into their rescue, and then also the follow-up with how they did in foster homes, and then like their adopters and stuff too. So it is kind of like a, this is how this ended for these. And then the next book I have is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse, and this is a newer release. It was released late last year, and I've heard really amazing things about this book. I really don't know a whole lot about what it's about. Yeah, this sounds intense. Okay, well, I'm excited to read this one. You know, we'll see how my pace goes, but this, I think is unscribed as an audiobook as well, so if I have to, I will do another book in audiobook form while I'm like physically reading another book. That way I can kind of read both at the same time. I read them, like I listen to the audiobook when I'm driving to and from work, during my commute, and I usually knock them out that way. So, and the last one I have on my actual structured list here is The City of Brass by S.H. Chakraborty. I think that's how you say it. And this is part of a trilogy. This came out, I think, several years ago at this point. Yeah, it came out in 2017, so I'm a little upset I haven't read this yet. I own this one and the second book, and I've heard they're outstanding. So I really need to get to this one, just so I can see if this series is going to be something I'm into, because, again, if I read the first one in the series and I'm like, oh, I don't really want to continue this, if I have other in the series, then at least I can part with those books, and it'll make space on my shelves. You get it. Anyways. Let's get into February. I forgot to mention that is 6 books that I'm going to read in January, and that does not include 2 random either mood picks or comic books. So, yep, 8 total. I'm out of breath from hunting for books for my February list. Anyway. Getting into February, the first book I have on my list is Vicious by V.E. Schwab, and one of the 2 books that I finished right at the beginning of the year was Addie LaRue, and honestly I loved it so much. It was so fucking good. I do have a little bit of feedback in that I think I was less than halfway through the book when I turned to my husband and said, I bet this is how this is gonna go. And I was right. So I felt it was a little predictable, but, you know, maybe not for everybody. So it definitely didn't, like, surprise me at the end, but it was beautiful. The relationship with the characters, Addie LaRue, like, the whole thing, great. And regardless of it feeling a little predictable, it was definitely a clever read. Like, it was definitely written in a clever fashion and unique and just really good. Anyways, this is not an Addie LaRue review, but because of it, I own Vicious, and I've had it for a while, and I really want to read it. This is another adult book by her that people have just said is so fucking good. If you've watched any of my other videos, I may or may not have mentioned that I'm not the biggest fan of The Conjuring of... what is it called? I don't know. The series, the Shades of Magic series. That's what it is. I'm not the biggest fan of Shades of Magic series. I've read the first 2 books. I own the third. I may or may not actually read it at this point. Because after the second, I just kind of felt bleh. But I really liked Addie LaRue, so I'm going to try this one out in February. And hope that I like it a lot. I've heard it's really good, and I'm here for the premise of this one. And then I also have Falling Kingdoms on the list, and I meant to read this back in 2020. I think this was on my, like, end of the year TBR list, and this is the first book in the... okay, yeah, so it's in... this is the first book in the Falling Kingdoms series, from what I understand. I bought this along with every other book in the series used at one point when I worked at the bookstore. It's an older YA fantasy series. I've heard mixed things, like that people read it when they were younger and they liked it, but it didn't hold up. So I need to read the first one and see if this is a series that I want to continue or not, because if not, I think there's like 6 or 7 books I can part with. So anyways, I'm excited to see how this goes. We'll see. And then I have a book on my TBR that I have owned since I started reading a lot, which was back in like might have been like 2016 or 2015 at this point. I bought this. When did this come out? This came out in 2016. So I must have bought this when it came out. And I still haven't read it. And that is Wake of Vultures by Lila Bowen. And I think this is like a Western themed fantasy book from my understanding. It's pretty well loved. It might even be sci-fi. I don't know. They're rather short. The text is large-ish. It should be a rather quick read. I own, I think, the first 2 books in the series, and I think there might be 4 now. It is really loved. Like, a lot of people love this series. I just haven't gotten to it, and it's one of those ones when I did my unhaul that I almost got rid of the 2 books that I own. But I do genuinely want to read them, so I was like, I need to prioritize these in the upcoming year. I need to not put this off anymore. I need to get it done. Anyways, the next one is one people are going to be fucking shocked about. Now, I have read the first book in this series. It was okay. It was, I don't know, I don't remember what I rated it, but probably like 4 or 5 stars. It was good.
Me again. Just here to make fun of myself. What the fuck was I trying to say here? Was it okay or was it good? Was it 4 or 5 stars? Was it 3? I don't know. I rated it like 4 or 5, I think, but it was good. I did like it. It was excellent. I don't know why a 5-star would be okay for me, but back when I read it, which was several years ago at this point, that's how I rated things, so things have changed a lot. Anyways, I wanted to make fun of myself because I was like, watching this back going, what, bitch? Was it okay? 5 stars? Huh? Anyways, peace out.
Okay, and, that being said, I read the original trilogy, and not the biggest fan of it. It almost felt like middle grade to me, but that's fine. Anyways, The next one on my list is The Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. I picked this up right after I read Six of Crows, and for some reason at the time, I just like wasn't feeling it. So I put it back down. And I do not own Six of Crows anymore, so I'm gonna have to read a refresher before I get to this one, and remember what the hell was going on. I also own King of Scars that I need to read. But I liked Six of Crows more than I liked the original Grisha trilogy, so I am hopeful that I will enjoy this. I know a lot of people love the series. It's okay for me. I don't know what it is, if it's the writer's style of writing or what, but I definitely liked the characters in Six of Crows more than the Grisha trilogy, so I'm getting to this one in February. We're gonna do it. I'm gonna see what I think now that I'm a more critical reader. Who doesn't... I noticed in 2020, I went from, like, at the beginning of the year reading, like, almost exclusively YA fantasy to reading, like, more adult fantasy than YA by the end of the year. Whatever. I just... For some reason, a lot of the time recently when I read YA fantasy, I'm like, I hate this. Like, it's so tropey, and I just... Anyways. The next one I really want to get to in February is The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin, and this is the second book in the Broken Earth trilogy. I really liked the first book. It had a bit of a learning curve for me because of the way it is written. It's like in second person or something. But once I got over that, the first book is astounding. Like, probably the best book I read last year. Or one of them. Did I read it last year or the year before? I don't know. One of the best books I've read in a long time. And the premise of this is so unique, so I am pumped to read this. Like, I might read it sooner than February. And then the sixth book I have on my TBR for February is The Child Thief by Brahm, and I believe this is illustrated. Yes, it is illustrated. So I am dying to read this. I've been dying to read this since I bought it. It is a Brahm retelling of Peter Pan. So I think, like, this is where, like, Peter Pan is evil. Yeah, I mean, it's like a horror retelling of Peter Pan. Brahm does a lot of these retellings, and they're beautifully illustrated on the inside, too. So I want to make sure that I like this one before I invest in the others that he's written, that, I don't know, they have written. Yeah, I want to make sure I like this one as much as I think I will before I invest in the others that they have written. Just because they are rather pricey, but so good. Like, isn't that cool? And like it's a big floppy paperback. Anyways, I want to read this one so bad. If I like this one as much as I think I'm going to invest in the other books that they've done, because I'm dying to have them. They're so fucking cool. Alright, so those are the 6 for February, and then I have 2 slots, again, for mood reads or comic books. And let's just move on into March. So March is the last month in the first quarter. And let me get those books. And then for March, I only have 5 picks here. And the reason for that is because 2 of them on the list are rather hunky books. So I decided to kind of pare down the other ones I was reading, just so I can make sure I reach my goal. So the first I have on this list is The Lies of Locke Lamora. I've heard mixed things. People either seem to love or hate this series, so I'm excited to get into it. I bought this copy used, and it's basically brand new, so excited to read this. And one of the shorter books I have on this list for March is Gods of Jade and Shadow. And getting into the 2 chunky boys, I need to read The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington? I don't know how to say your name. I'm sorry. This is a big boy. It is 700 and let's see. Oh my gosh, come on. It is 693 pages. This is a adult fantasy series that I'm really, really hyped to read. I think there's like 2 other books left in this, or out in the series, but this is number 1. And I got really lucky and found this used at one point, and it's like in brand new condition. So this has been in my TBR for a while now, probably about a year. But I'm really hyped to read this, and it's a big one, so it's going to take me a little while to read it. And then I also have Kings of the Wild to read. This is not quite as long, but it is chunky. Yeah, 455 pages or so. And this is a grimdark fantasy that is apparently really good, but the characters are like fucked up. So this will be, would this be my first, like, I think this might be my first like grimdark that I'm gonna read, like, ever. So I hope it doesn't put me off the whole subgenre. I have high expectations for you, sorry. Anyways, I probably wouldn't give up on grimdark even if this was not up to snuff. I do have others that I'd like to try out, particularly Mark Lawrence's books. Anyways, and then the last one on my list is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Why am I reading 2 Leigh Bardugo books in a row when I'm not the biggest fan of her writing? I don't know.
Because you like to self-sabotage. And I'll be honest, guys, I don't know if I'm gonna get to this book. Yeah, I'm gonna flat out say that I'm probably not going to get to this book, maybe later in the year. But it might be next year at this point. Whatever.
But this is just one, like, I've had it on my list now for a while, and I feel like it's gonna, if I don't get to it soon, it's gonna be one that I just, like, let it sit there. And, I'll tell you, I had a lot of people trade this in when I was working at the bookstore, and I would ask, like, what did you think of that book? I own it, but I haven't read it yet. And they're like, I didn't really like it. That's why I'm here with it. And I'm like, oh, cool. Thanks. So I am apprehensive, but we will see. I don't know how I feel about the school setting. I'm typically not a fan of that. I'm also really not a fan of, like, the, like, palace court setting. Even though Throne of Glass has that, which, you know, I didn't like it in the first book. Once they're out of that palace, I'm like, yeah, cool. But anyways, so then in March I need to read either 3 mood picks or 3 comic books. It'll probably be comic books because I'll probably be really burnt out after reading huge fucking books in March. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more videos. I post every Tuesday and Thursday right now. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a nice week. Bye.